Emily, please give us your thoughts for the day.
So my biggest lesson learned for today is that never agree to do closing remarks when you know you're going to be jet lagged. I have had to take notes and be very attentive all day long when I just wanted to fall asleep, although everything was, of course, very interesting. But I'm going to do my best tonight to take you through these last 20 minutes and really try to reflect on all the incredible, complex ideas and things that we learned today. I also wanted to do it in a fun way. So second lessons learned, maybe for Roger this time, don't give this task to a millennial, because I want us to, have a little bit of fun as we close down. So I don't know how many of you have already used a dating app. I don't know if people are going to be okay raising their hands. But I thought that we could kind of look at what would the ideal dating profile be of the new philanthropist, right? Because we've spent the day talking about philanthropy and what it means and how to do it better and all the things that we should know as people who give. And, out of all of this, there must be the perfect version of, what a enlightened, impactful philanthropists looks like. So I've identified 5 things that person could put on their profile. Could be any profile, not a dating profile. And so I'm going to take you through a few of these. Please bear with me as I go through all of my notes, because there are some really great quotes from some of the speakers that I want to share with you. So first of all, the new philanthropist is more than just a signature on a check. And, this is a phrase that Fran Perrin used this morning. So the new philanthropist wants to be a strategic donor, and that means a lot of different things. Fran talked about, the profession of philanthropy. It's a job. I mean, all of the incredible philanthropists I know spend all their time on this. There's strategy behind it. There's care, and we should recognize that as a profession and as a professionalized process. But to become a professional, you need to learn how, right? And I think this very first point of how do we learn how to do this right is very important. And we'll have different answers for different people in the room. But knowledge will lead you to passion. And, being a passionate donor is also being an informed donor. With passion comes expertise. Expertise also leads you to become brave. And I think, the very first panel for me was so important in really highlighting that. Christina talked about, how her passion led her to create, one of the most brave and risk-taking portfolios that I've ever heard of on the philanthropy side. She's basically looking at 3 issues that nobody else wants to look at: menstruation, menopause, and female sexual pleasure. So, that is quite a journey, and I think it's an inspiration. So, I would just want to share a few of their recommendations. How do you get to be more than a name on a check? You learn by doing, was what Fran said. You constantly question yourself and challenge yourself, and you accept that you're on a continued learning journey. And I think that is very important, especially in this sector. And, Christina said, you find your peers, and you join networks. You find a philanthropic partner. You're not in this alone. And there's also so much power in saying, I don't have the answers. So, 1, you're more than just a signature on a check, and that can build incredible journeys of, impact for both yourself and the people that you are serving. The second thing that this new philanthropists can put on their profile is that they're more than just a one-person shop, right? There's so much today that we've heard that was about collaboration and partnership and what that means. And, money brings power, and power does things to people. And, being able to work with other people who understand where you're coming from, sharing that power, building creative power out of that financial power is really important. The community piece is incredibly crucial to impactful philanthropy. And David Goldberg from the Founders Pledge told us that, right? He's created a way, an entry point into this community for founders. But there are many other entry points. And I think everyone in this room, and we've talked a lot about how Sweden can do can do more to support the philanthropist movement and create more philanthropists, I think that entry point is really important. So think, where do you stand on that continuum? Are you already in it? Do you think you could recruit people to become philanthropists and join you? And how can we, get more people to give? It's also about, can't even read myself, this is ridiculous. Also about, who we're investing in, right? Who a philanthropist's investing in. And when you say you're more than just a one-person shop, is that you're actually opening yourself up to the unknown. And that, I think, is a pattern in philanthropy that we don't see enough, but when we do see it, it brings incredible results. Layla from Samasource talked about, not really knowing if, at the very beginning of her idea, if these folks would be able to do what she wanted or thought that they could do, but they could. Sylvie Lafarge from Microsoft talked about being in coalition with people who are not in your sector. That's kind of a counterintuitive, thing to do. Partnering and investing in grassroots women, for example, when you've been a CEO of one of the most successful private sector companies in the world, might also seem a little scary. How do I do that? How do I build these bridges? But philanthropy is not a one-person shop, and only through collaboration and partnership can we really amplify the impact of the money that we're giving. And also, partnership is about giving that power away, right? And as someone who leads a women's rights organization that, in my shoes, I actually go ask for money, someone whose giving journey is limited by their own views and own aspirations, it's actually difficult to have a really good conversation with them. And there's a lot of work to do to actually try and build bridges between that person and what other people are funding in the sector, and why, it would be important for them to join forces. So I encourage everyone who is in here, who is a philanthropist, who wants to become a philanthropist, to make that collective piece of it central. And I was going to quote David, who said, where's David? Sorry. Yes. So, David shared 3 things, right? You need to be flexible in partnership, especially, when philanthropists come together, but also in him and in the Founders Circle, Founders Pledge, actually serving philanthropists. Flexibility, complete control, and streamlined. It's a personal decision. And I think, those elements are really important. And he also, mentioned the importance of community in making this work for folks. On top of commitment mechanisms and support that he's providing, there's this idea of community of philanthropists that is really crucial. Okay, the third thing that the person could put on their profile of the new philanthropists. The new philanthropists, he thinks, or she thinks, goodness, for a gender expert, I should have started with the she. He thinks, did it again, she thinks global, but she acts local, national, and global. And I think, a lot of the lessons that I took out today is that it goes in both ways. Like, we can dream big. We can, as a philanthropist, position ourselves in these really big issues. And I thought that the panel on the ocean was really interesting to me for that reason. And Nishan used the concept of, where is Nishan? I told you I took a lot of notes. Of the new leadership community that needs to emerge to face exponential changes. And I think that he was talking of that very high-level engagement that philanthropists, people who have resources, can act as leaders. It's not just the name on the check. It's we're becoming leaders and advocates for these bigger issues that are really important at the global level. And how we take big issues and global issues and actually turn them into actionable investments. That's something that the philanthropist can do and is actually better positioned to do. I kind of do the opposite. As an advocate, I take local issues and I take them to the global level. But philanthropists really have an opportunity here to work both ways. Mercy Olson on the Oceans panel talked about, how it starts with a race, and a few years down the line, she has a network of cities on the Baltic coast who are actually coming together to promote all of the work that her organization is doing, and how, as a philanthropist, can you invest in, maybe the very first ask that they made in that organization was, we're organizing a race for this issue. Okay, but actually there was a vision behind. There was a bigger scaling up plan. And so, how we as philanthropists go from that local to the national to the global is really important. Same with the example of Diana's movie, right? One woman, a few years down the line, she's the head of a cooperative of 450 also incredible women. And how do we invest in local small work, knowing that we're making these bigger impacts? The fourth thing that the new philanthropist can put on their profile is that, they're ready to challenge stereotypes, and they're ready to get their hands dirty and merge strategies and approaches, and they're not limited by a certain way of doing things. I can, again, not read my notes, but there's no one-size-fits-all, right? And Farouk from Acumen talked about social finance as this new incredible tool, but I love the way he said, listen, sometimes it's a loan, sometimes it's a grant, sometimes it's both together, and we have to be open to that. Okay, let's move on. The final thing that the new philanthropist can put on their profile is that that person is ready to evolve with the sector. Let's look beyond the buzzwords and the trends. Let's look at what works. I mean, your presentation, Michael, was just amazing and showed us that, you want to work on women's economic empowerment. It might not be about just the economy. Where can you, mainstream your resources and your support in a way that is impacting social progress and all of those different fields that Michael talked about with the social progress index. Layla talked about the charity model isn't always good. And so if you're starting off as a philanthropist and you're looking at charity, questioning what that means, obviously after an emergency or a natural disaster, it's important to have charity. On the long term, what are the long-term solutions that you feel are actually really aligned with your own journey and your own beliefs and how you see the world changing? Based on all the incredible data, and Annie talked about data just now, that there is out there on what works and what doesn't work. Don't be shy. And I think, we need to get from 64 to 75 on your social progress index if we're going to achieve all of the sustainable development goals. That's doable. We can all be part of it. If we use our hearts and our mind, like Annie mentioned, we can get there. And we've all deserved a gin and tonic or any other beverage, alcoholic or non-alcoholic. Thank you very much, Roger, for organizing this, and to the people that obviously helped you along the way. It's been an honor being here tonight, and let's wrap up. Thank you.